Hey, what's up? Andrew Kramer here, and welcome to another very exciting tutorial for our brand new plugin, Element 3D. Now, we're very excited to finally show you how it works, and we've been very secretive about it, we know. But today, we're going to reveal the mysteries and hopefully show you how it works and what it can do for you. So, the basic idea is it's a 3D object-based particle array system. So, you can do some really cool things with 3D objects and right inside of After Effects. So how it compares to a 3D program is it doesn't. A 3D program, can do anything. It's, 3D Max, Cinema 4D. They're made to really handle anything. But render times can be, pretty slow with ray tracing and all that. So we wanted to build a 3D system that instead of doing everything, it does a lot of things really fast. So that was the idea. We want it to be fast and look really good. So we built an entire OpenGL based render engine that takes advantage of, mid-level graphics cards. Obviously if you have a high-end card, it'll be even faster. But you can pretty much use any card within the last, 3.5 years, ATI, NVIDIA, and you can use most versions of After Effects from CS3, CS4, CS5, 5.5, and I'm actually using CS6. So we'll post all that technical stuff. Let's just jump in and take a look at how this plugin works. So I'm going to create a new solid and I'll hit OK because I'm tired of all these 2D layers. I want some real 3D. So I'm going to take the solid. We're going to choose Effect, Video Copilot, Element. All right, so we've got the plugin in our comp. Let's crack this baby open. We need to add some 3D objects. So we're just going to click on Scene Setup. And here we are in the Element Scene Setup interface. So this is a custom interface that we designed, and we designed it to appeal to 3D artists, and we also designed it to appeal to non-3D artists. So we really focused the attention on tasks and what you're doing, and we really just tried to streamline it as best we could. So here's how it works. We can import some 3D objects. So you can load an OBJ file. We can also load a Cinema 4D file that's not animated. And what's cool about that is that you don't have to export your Cinema 4D files to open up inside of Element. You can just save it natively and you don't have to worry about conversion issues. So for this demo, we can take a look at some of the built-in models of Element. So we have some primitives over here, and these are just some object files that make it easy to get started. We can click on a sphere here. And so now we've loaded it into our scene. You can see over here we have the object. We have a base material, and we can go inside and we can start adjusting all of the settings. So we can play with, specularity. We can turn up the reflectivity. Now we can also turn on the environment in the preview. So this way we can kind of see what it looks like. We can come over to the presets, and we just have some different basic materials that we can apply. So what's cool about this is you can just get started really fast with some of these shaders, and you can also go in and edit them. So once you add them, they're fully customizable. So you can do anything that you need to kind of get the look that you want. That's like the basic idea, and you can go through, you can add different objects to create some cool scenes. Now I'm going to go ahead and delete that because I've actually set up an object for our demo. And it's these headphones. So I clicked on it, and here we have some nice looking headphones. Now we can use this object as our particle. So let me show you how that works. If I hit OK, we now have those headphones inside of After Effects. So we can now create a camera, and I can go ahead and orbit around the headphones. So we basically have a 3D object inside of After Effects. So, and it's also quite fast. We can set this to off, and this is 720p. So this is how fast it's rendering inside of After Effects. So very, very cool. Now let me point out something really quick. So if I go back into the scene, I can make some more adjustments. So let me just show you a few more things here. So we have some built-in lighting setups. So these are just to kind of help you get a sense for what your model looks like, and you just can play around with these, and you can move the lighting around, to see how they look, and you can tweak your settings, while you're working. You can shut the environment off. You can zoom in. Right now we have draft textures on. We can turn that off, And you can see, the detail is really nice. Now, the reason this is already set up is because I've already pre-saved it. But what if you're going to just bring in your own model? Well, no problem. You just click Import, open up the OBJ file, and it's going to come in. I can go ahead and reset my view here. It's going to come in with no textures because OBJ files don't actually have textures and there's not really a unified standard. But what we wanted to do was make it as streamlined as possible. So if you click on the material, you can basically take any texture and drop it right into the diffuse slot. And there we go. We've also got the specular, which I can drop right onto the specular. I can turn up my reflectivity and my, shininess, and I'm pretty much good to go. And once you set it up, the other cool thing you can do, zoom in on this or whatever, say it's a logo or something that you have to do a lot, and just right click on the object, save as model preset, and hit OK. And now that object is saved with all of your settings. And it uses the original OBJ file. So if I were to delete all of this, I can just click on it, and I've loaded it again, and it's ready to go. So here's what I'll do. I'll go ahead and just load our headphones as our particle. And the one thing I'll point out is the 1 here. We're using group 1. So let me show you how that works right now. We'll hit OK. All right, so we've got our 3D objects. Now what can we do with it? Well, let's start out by adding some After Effects lights. So we'll choose new, we'll do new point light here. We'll do blue. And, we'll turn it up. And let's add another ambient light. So do an ambient light that's white, maybe 20% intensity. And then let's add another light, and this time let's do a parallel light. So maybe really bright, 200. And then the parallel light works like it's coming like the sun. So let's move it around here. And we'll turn up the intensity here. So this is looking pretty good. We've got our headphones here, and we can take this blue light and maybe duplicate it and maybe put one on this side. And let's make it like a really, dark blue color. So it kind of highlights our background color. That's really cool. So this is looking nice. So what can we do now with this one object? Because there's got to be more, right? Right. So here's what we have. We have group 1. So remember, this object is on group 1. Pretty straightforward. So then we go into the group 1 settings. So we can come down to the particle look and we can scale it. We can rotate it. We can animate it, do all that good stuff. And then we have the particle replicator. So we can move the replicator. This is kind of like the emitter, except Element doesn't emit particles, it creates array particles. So let's turn the particle count up to 25. Now, nothing has changed because our shape is a point. But what we can do is we can change that to pretty much anything we want. We can do a 3D grid, we can do a sphere, we can do a layer alpha, we can also do a 3D object. So what I'm going to do is just choose a sphere. So now we've got our headphone. Maybe we'll turn it down to 16. Maybe even less, like 12. So we've got our headphones here, and it's looking pretty good. So we can turn up the size of the shape. So that's cool. We can also rotate the particles. So let's go to particle look, and let's turn up rotation random. So that's going to randomize the direction of all of the particles in the replicator. So pretty cool. We can also do a size random. I'm not sure why you would, but you could. It's kind of cool. And it's looking good. Let's just take a look at a couple of other things. Like once you get started, it's hard to really focus because there's so many possibilities. So let's skip the animation engine for now because that's going to blow your mind. But let's jump into the render settings. So in the render settings, this is where you can do a lot of cool things. So first of all, you can turn the show background on. So that gives you your 3D background ready to go. We can also use a layer and load it directly. Now, we also have our fog system, which is a really cool system. I love this system because it does so much. So let's just pick a blue color and let's turn it on. Let's turn the opacity up, and then let's change the start distance set to 0, meaning the camera plane. Let's move it forward. And then we can change the range. We can kind of tighten the range. And it's practically real time. So let me show you some speed. So we're going to zoom in here. We're at full resolution, and this is 720p. And I have it set to adaptive resolution off, which means every frame is a full raster 720p. And you can see I'm dragging through this and looking really good. So let's go ahead, zoom out here. Let's take a look at some other things that we can do. So we can turn on motion blur. So let's animate the camera really quick. And what I'll do is take the layer that has element, turn on the motion blur, and then turn it on for the comp. So now I'll go ahead and scrub through this. And again, these are full 720p rasters that we're seeing because the adaptive resolution is off. So let's just go ahead and I'm gonna hit 0 here, purge all, and I'll hit 0. And that's how fast it's rendering with the motion blur at full 720p. It's pretty fast. It's pretty fast. Now, some other things to point out is that you can do things that will slow it down. You can do things that are really, powerful features that we just had to include, like depth of field. So depth of field is one of those things that there's not really any good fast way to do it. But we did include a couple of fast ways to do it. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So to get some really good depth of field, we have the pixel blur and we have the multipass. But to just get some preview depth of field, we have the preview and the continuous blur. So we'll turn those on. And let's go in here. Let's go to our camera and we'll turn the depth of field on. So probably just need to crank this up a little bit. And so right now we can see we're starting to have some depth of field. Now, let me turn up the samples to like 400. And we'll go back in here and we'll turn the aperture up. So now we're starting to see a little bit more of the depth of field. Can kind of zoom in here and see what that's looking like. See what's in focus right there. So now this is not perfect depth of field, but what it is extremely fast. So it's great for doing, previewing or temp comps when you're working, and then when you're ready to do the final render, you can turn on, the full quality one. Now, in a lot of cases, it'll probably work okay, but you just want to be able to understand what the limitations are. Now the pixel blur is really good, really nice looking depth of field, and it's a little bit slower. So remember, we're doing full raster, so this is about full raster speed here. Now, if I set it to adaptive resolution, we can actually get some decent responsiveness with what we're doing, and you can see that the depth of field, it looks amazing. We could, let's see, we'll set the focus distance a little closer, maybe even turn the aperture up even more. It looks amazing, and the responsiveness is really good. It's just not as, real time as some of the other effects. But remember, with the Real 3D program, you have to render it out, and then you have to render out the passes, and then you have to add, depth of field and use the passes to, do the depth of field. So that's kind of what the plugin is doing right now, but it's doing it internally. So it's a lot faster because it doesn't have to kind of sample two images and go through all those steps. Now, even though the depth of field is fairly fast here, just keep in mind that, the more complex your scene is, you can slow things down. But in most cases, when you don't have depth of field on, things are going to be pretty snappy. So depth of field and motion blur are the two things that can really add to your render time. But the cool thing about that is you can turn those on at the end. All right, so this is the basic idea of how the plugin works, but let's just dig a little bit deeper. So I'm going to jump into the scene setup again. All right, so we've got our headphones here, but let me go ahead and load my stopwatch model. So here we have it. I'm going to go ahead and reset the viewer options. Okay, so you can see it's got some nice reflections. Now remember, it's not real ray tracing, so it doesn't reflect other objects, but what it is real fast. So it's a nice balance. So what I can do is turn the environment back on here. And let me show you this environment option here. So if we click on that, we have an environment slot that we can go in and change it and completely change the way the reflections look. So it's really handy, and it also gives you some really cool controls. Now, this is not a preview option. Now we can go back in there and we can try out some different looks. So we have, a warm version of that studio. We've got this cool underpass, and this warehouse. And we can shut the background off just so you can see how the reflections look. You can also go to the objects and you can turn the settings down. So you can turn the reflectivity amount down, make it more, make it less. One other thing I'll point out is you see this object has two materials. That's because this object's been saved out of a 3D program with more than one material. So Element just says, hey, there's more materials. Let me just show you what they are. So that way you can go in and control the parts individually. And then we also have a handy solo so that you can kind of see what each piece looks like. So that's kind of handy. And it actually renders that way. So say you have a model with a bunch of pieces, you can hide certain parts, if you so choose. So this is the environment thing. I wanted to show you that because I think it's just a cool way to just completely transform, what your scene looks like. And I'm using, there's two versions. There's usually the standard version, and then there's the blurred version. So the blurred version's a lot better. It's more abstract, less specific, and it also makes your reflections look a little bit more, a little less shiny, which is kind of cool if you want something not to seem as, perfectly ray traced. All right, so I think we've talked about quite a bit, and I'm wondering if there's anything else that we should talk about. So let me go ahead and just close this out. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the Video Copilot product family. So what we have is the Element 3D plugin. So that's the plugin that allows you to import the models. It's got 20 pre-made base materials, and it comes with, a few dozen, basic objects and things to get you started. Now, the other two cool products that we have is the Motion Design Pack and the Pro Shaders. So the Pro Shaders is 200 more advanced materials, and I want to show you that in just a second. And then we have the Motion Design Pack, which is just a ton of amazing abstract 3D objects to basically get you started right away. And then we have our two bundles. So we have the Pro 3D bundle, which has those two, and the 3D Design bundle, which is all of those products together. So we really wanted to make this affordable because we think it's something that everyone, can take advantage of. So let me show you what those things are. So we've got a quick little material demo here. I've just got this object. All right, so let's take a look at the Pro Shaders. I'm gonna go ahead and click on the scene setup. And here we've got an object loaded, and it looks like this cool metal. And we've got our cinema lighting on. We can, change that around, play with some different setups. We can even change the environment that our objects are in, depending on how we want it to look. Now, we'll go into the presets here, and we have our materials. Now we have our base materials. So these don't have any textures, but they get you started, and they can give you some different ideas on how to take advantage of the shaders. But our 3D engine is really powerful and can do a lot more. So our Pro Shaders probably highlights that in the best way. So when you install it, this is how it works. You have the Pro Shaders and you have a whole bunch of categories. Here's all the different metal shaders, and here's how it works. You take the shader, you drop it onto your object, and you have instant whatever that is. We can go through here. I've got this great looking metal here, and the fact that you can do it inside of After Effects, inside of Element, is really cool. So now this one has a really cool kind of bumpy looking surface. And this brings me to another cool thing, the fact that these are all fully editable. Now, once you add them onto your object, you can go in there and you can edit all of the settings. So you can change the color, you can, play around with the intensity of the bump. You want it to be a little less bumpy, a little more bumpy. There's a lot of options after the fact. And remember, we don't just have metal. There's some really cool translucent objects. These are sort of just, we've got some ice right here. We've got some, bumpy looking water. We've got this gummy bear look. There's really just, a lot of different styles that you can instantly transform whatever it is you're doing. We've got some different stones. We've got, this really nice bumpy looking surface that could be all sorts of things. We've got some organic ones, different looking surfaces that, and remember, these are all part of our engine, so they render extremely fast. Got the classic concrete, that's great for, logos and different stuff. So really, really cool. Anything, let's see, the plastic has some really cool ones too. So like, drop this one on here. I mean, these are just, fun looking surfaces. Now, let's talk about the Motion Design Pack. So basically, it's over 200 individual models of some of the coolest things that, you're going to find. Now, we have some amazing liquid elements. So let me just space this out a little bit. And we can also lower the divider here. So here we have tons of objects that you can load. These are massive, objects. They look great. They have a basic material. You can go in there, change that out. Now, this brings up another point, is that we have mapping options. So if you don't like the way something is mapped, you can go into the object and you can change it. So we can do just a quick box mode. And if it looks, it's too close together, we can turn up the UV repeat amount, make it a little tighter, or we can lower it 0.5 and it looks a little bit, wider. Of course, you start losing resolution that way. But you can go through and turn all of the motion graphics objects into any kind of surface that you want. Here's orange soda. Finally, I've been waiting to do this. How about the gummy bear one? So we'll take, looks delicious. Hopefully I didn't run through this too fast, but that is the idea of the Pro Shaders and the Motion Design Pack. And just to show you a couple of more things in here, we have stuff like some really cool three-dimensional arrows, and we can make it this frosty one. We've got the liquids, we've got machine parts, music notes, borders. Just, we'll have a whole breakdown of everything that's included. But just a lot of cool things that you can use to get started really, really fast. So we've got this cool sweeping design, and you can notice that this particular object has multiple material channels, which means you can add a material to individual parts of that. So you can really create your own designs and play with things and combine them. And with the array options of Element, of the group settings, you can go into the particle replicator and just do some really cool, amazing animation. So this is the Element product family. It's the plugin, it's the Pro Shaders, and the Motion Design Pack. Is that everything? I think so. All right, my name is Andrew Kramer. Thank you guys for watching this video, and hopefully this answers a few questions, and I'll be sure to add some more videos and demos soon, and you can see all the other things that are possible, because remember, gotta save some surprises for later. So we'll see you then.